Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, How to Use the New Form Designer. This is Andrew Duttavio, and we'll get started in just a few minutes at the top of the hour. Thank you. Hello, everyone. This is Andrew Duttavio. I'm going to give everyone just a minute or two to finish getting logged in. Thank you for joining. We'll start in 1 minute. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another customer success webinar. Today, we are going to present how to use the new form designer. And for the presentation today, I would like to introduce Bryce Calloway. Bryce Calloway joined us about just over a year ago and has been an excellent addition to the team. And he's going to take you through today's content. One bit of scheduling note, this is a fairly simple concept today, so I don't think we're going to take the full hour. I actually know we're not going to take the full hour. Just a heads up, everyone appreciates a little time back in their day, so I'm sure that's not a problem for folks. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Bryce to get started, and he will talk us through the new form designer in the Oxygen UI.
Thanks, Andrew. So the agenda for today is to cover why you should redesign existing forms. We'll cover the new form designer, and we'll do a demo. And then we'll have Q&A. So why redesign existing forms? The existing forms designs are inherited by the new UI. Now that forms are no longer wrapped in portlets, there is more real estate available for form views. Updated form designs reduce or even eliminate the need to scroll. Configuration components, what you'll need is an unconverted form and a mask if applicable. So once again, you will need to use a form that has not been converted to the new form designer. A form must have an existing layout designer using the current form designer to successfully convert to the new form designer. Just an example of new form designer pages that have already been converted. Record intake forms, record detail forms, and inspection forms. So to convert an existing form, you'll need a form that has not yet been converted. You'll notice the grid-like pattern is a clear indicator for you that a form has not yet been converted to the new form designer. To convert, you'll just simply click on the New Designer button located in the top banner, and the form will convert. You'll notice the grid-like pattern has disappeared and you now have rows and columns. Currently, we have 331 pages that have been converted. With the 19.2.2 product version, prod release on 12.5 and available for on-prem agencies 12.9, you can now convert 331 forms to the new form layout designer, which allows you to take advantage of the JAngular 3 technology, ultimately resulting in faster page rendering and improved product performance. We have another 165 pages to roll out in the future, comprised mostly of administration forms. All Civic Platform back office pages will be addressed by the 2020 fall release of 20.2.0. So to redesign an existing form, once you've done the conversion, we've added features like drag and drop. You'll simply pick from one of the controls in that center column and just drag them over. It's important to click on the drag button, and that will allow you to do the drag and drop feature. If you'd like to change the properties, label, access key, tab index, or change the field to be required or not required or read only, this is the area you would do it. And if this form has an applicable mask, you would apply that there. Okay, and now I will do a demo of how to convert the form. So from the Civic Platform page, you'll go to Administration. Under the Agency Profile, you'll click on the Form Portlet Designer. You'll see a list of your forms. Once again, you'll notice the grid-like pattern, clear indicator this is an old form, and then click New Designer. This will convert the form. If there's controls you'd like to add and they are applicable to that form, you have the ability to do that. Once again, you can click on the drag and drop, move the control around to where you would like it, change the properties, and then you'll click Save once you've completed that conversion and changed the form to meet the new designer. There was a lot of, in the V360 view, there was a lot of left to right scrolling. Now it's more the up and down, which will allow you to convert the form and add. If there's not a row down here, as you can see, as you drag, they'll come down and appear. The other way you can convert a form is from a portlet itself. So if we're in the records portlet and we're on a record, we can redesign it. Hover over the menu, click on Edit View. You can see this has not been converted. It is on the older technology. Same location for the new designer button. And it'll convert the form. Once you've adjusted it or added new controls, then you'll simply click the save button. Now, something to note is once you do convert and save, you cannot convert back to the old designer.
Okay. I believe we're to the question section. Like I said, this is a very simple concept. I think it is important to note that there is a significant performance improvement with these forms. That's the benefit of allowing, that's the benefit of doing the work to upgrade the technology in the background, as we gain the return on that investment in performance and speed within the forms. So for any of you using the Oxygen UI and haven't done this, give it a try. I think you'll see a performance improvement on those forms that you move over to the new design. We're starting to see some questions come in, which we'll address as many as we can. Some of them are coming into the chat window. If you wouldn't mind moving them into the QA component of the Zoom meeting, that would make it very easy for us to manage the questions coming in. The first one is this is for the UI. This is for the new UI, I should say. This is not a form design that is available within the V360 interface. So this is specifically for the Oxygen or new user interface. There's also a question around batch conversion or bulk conversion, and the answer to that is no, there is no bulk conversion at this time. And because there's several reasons for that. It's not a very easy thing to accomplish with technology. And this is a great chance for you to take the V360 forms that were designed for potentially more left to right scrolling and adjust them for the form design within the Oxygen UI, which allows for a more up and down and eliminate that left to right scrolling within the new UI. So, there's no recommended order. It's also a question, is there a recommended order to start converting forms? I would say that the most heavily used forms in the systems would be the ones I would start with, as they will benefit the performance gain for your users the most after you convert to the new designer. Catch up on some of the questions here. Bryce, feel free to jump in if you see anything. There's one here. What if I don't have the button for the new designer, Bryce?
So if the button is not showing, that form has not yet been converted to the new technology, and it will be in a future release.
Okay. There will be a copy of this video provided. It's just a housekeeping question, but there absolutely will be a copy of this available on Accela community once we're complete. And again, to reiterate, Bryce made the comment that once you convert a form, you cannot go back. Once you convert that form, I don't know about Data Manager. I believe someone's asking a question about Data Manager, if they can import the old form back on top of it. I honestly don't know. That's something we can follow up on and try that. But once you convert it within the product, there is no undo. You're now using that new form design. Bryce, you know what version this became available? I believe this came available in one of the 10X versions.
Correct. Yeah, 10.
Yeah. So this became available after 10.
Another question was, can you select multiple fields and drag them around. It's an individual drag and drop, so you'll select the drag button on each of the controls and then drag it into the location and release.
Okay. Also, there's a question about, does this impact V360 in any way? And it does not. The performance gains and impacts are isolated to the Oxygen UI. And Bryce, I believe the context window that you showed has the ability to relabel the field for display as the previous designer did.
Correct.
So yes, that's another question in the Q&A. Yes, there is a plan. So the question is there a plan to update the custom field forms? And the answer is yes. As Bryce mentioned, we've done quite a few forms, 300 plus forms currently available. And Bryce, what was the date for completion that you provided? And that would be all the remaining forms in the system.
Yeah, that's the fall release of 2020. So it'll be the 20.2.
Yeah, and I believe there are there's more forms coming in 20.1 and 20.2. I'm just not privy to the full list of which ones are in which version.
Yep, and they are listed in the release notes. So per version, we'll have what forms have been converted.
Excellent. Should we convert all existing forms to the new design? Yes, I would recommend that. We're leveraging a better technology in the background. It's going to provide for better performance. It may be minimal, it's negligible to the user, but it across an enterprise system at the infrastructure layer, you will see improved performance, lower demand on the infrastructure. Okay, just going through the other questions here. Bryce, can you show the output of a new form after it's been converted? Is that possible? There's a question about what they look like after they've been converted. Bryce will show that. Yes, just to clarify while Bryce is showing this, this is not yet available for custom fields or ASI, as it was previously known. It's coming. That's what's coming in 20.1 and 20.2.
So just as it looked before, this is a converted form. Now, when we go in, you notice it doesn't have the old designer, and it no longer has the button.
So this is a good question I want to touch on. Has anyone had any problems with converting or after converting? And in my work with our support group and all the things that we do, I honestly have not heard of a single issue with form conversion. This has been something that's just worked. Changing form design will not have any impact on your business logic. So there's questions around, will it impact scripts or the existing business logic of the system? This is purely a form or UI change, and changing this will not have any impact. Now, don't take fields away that you need for your scripts. If there's fields on your form, you got to make sure they still exist when you redesign your form so that happens. But just changing the form itself will not have any impact any longer. Web browser compatibility requirements is a question here, and the response to that is just as long as you're on a supported browser for the Civic platform, that's what we test and do our QA and validation against. So those supported browsers listed in the release notes section will work with this form designer. Lots of questions. Version 10, just to remind everyone, there's a couple of questions just to remind. It's available at version 10 and up. There's a good question here about agency versus module versus user group scope. There's no particular order there. Again, I would focus on the most heavily used forms, so starting at the agency level and work your way down to the individual users. But that's just my personal preference. It's whatever works for your users and your agency administrators. So there's a question here about, given the performance efficiency and gains on infrastructure, is this something that's going to become mandatory for our hosted customers? And the answer is not today, but I think the long-term answer is we will retire V360 at some point in the not too distant future. So once we do that, then yes, I would strongly suggest this becomes a mandatory function once everyone's in the new UI. No time frames on any of that. I just know that V360 it's an older technology for us, and this Oxygen UI has replaced it. We've solved quite a few of the barriers for customers to move from the old UI to the new UI. So one of those is one we heard a lot, and we'll just show right now. And Bryce, if you don't mind showing the setting a homepage function. This is one that several of our agencies, many of you maybe on the phone, talked about. Is the default view is always the task-based view within. So just show the task cards for a second. So this task card view, up until version 19.2, was the default view for someone logging into the system. We had multiple people tell us that that's not the view they wanted to see. They're either not task-based, or they prefer to jump right to the record portlet, or whatever their use case is. Maybe it's the inspections page. So we did add a capability on the once it's added to your pages, and you add it to your pages by starring it or creating a favorite page, then there's a new home button. And if you click that home button next to that record portlet, that is the view that will pop up when you log into the product, instead of the task-based view that was previous to 19.2. So you can do this with any page in the system. So the home page can truly be your home page within the system. And that's available at 19.2. And I know that was a deterrent for some folks to move to the new UI, because the seeing the tasks was confusing to the users. They wanted to see the page that they're used to seeing, or similar page like the record portlet here that we're seeing. So just make that known. Okay. Questions. Mm-hmm. Thank you for the commentary, Amy. There are several, if I'm reading this correctly, this issue that using this designer has actually resolved several issues for customers. Certain fields not working correctly, or something within a support ticket where converting the form actually solved the problem. So that's fantastic. There is a character limitation on the field name. That's something we're going to have to follow up with. I don't have that character limitation memorized off the top of my head, but we can certainly provide a follow-up to that question. Okay, just a handful of questions left. Bryce, I actually don't know the answer to this. Maybe you can help me with this one. Can you tell what fields are required without opening the properties dialog? It's one of the questions in that. Is it indicated as a asterisk or some type of visual indicator? We'll look and see if we can answer that question. 19.2 is the version that the homepage selection is implemented. So again, 19.2, which was just released recently.
So it's based off of per property. I'm assuming they're asking on the control itself.
Yeah, so set one to required and see if it's indicated. That's, I think, what they're asking.
Asterisk.
Yeah. So the red asterisk does appear once you've set a required field within the form designer. So there's a question about snap to grid that I want to address. There really isn't a grid anymore. From my understanding, there's columns and rows, but it's different than what you're used to with the grid page behind the field. So I think the behavior is slightly different, but it's a very intuitive designer where it allows you to align things very easily next to each other or above, up and down from each other vertically to create the form designs that you need. So I'm not sure that there's a snap to grid capability, but I'm not sure that it's would be needed. Okay. Comment taken, Aiden. There's a comment in the questions about it would be better if that red asterisk was a little more visible. That's something we can certainly make a recommendation to the product team. Should be a very minor thing. I'll provide that feedback to the product team, but it was rather small. So. Okay. We're dwindling down. I don't think there's any more active questions at the moment. If we didn't address something, please feel free to reach out. This will be posted on the Accela community site once it's, I believe, do we have a timeline for that, Summer, or does that usually happen? Just curious.
Yeah, within the next day, it'll be available.
Awesome. So within the next 24 hours, this will be posted in community. And with that, if there's no other questions, I think we can give some folks some time back in their day. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Have a great afternoon.